Hello guys, it's Kim and I have a very special video today. Obviously you can tell by the title, but Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition has just been released. Everyone's spazzing out about it. It's been released online, like digitally, so you can buy it online. But I got the very special chance to see it at the cinema, the Ultimate Edition at the cinema. Oh my god, so that makes 4 times now. I had to count my fingers to make sure that I was holding up 4. That's how stupid and tired I am right now. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about what I thought about the Ultimate Edition, if you guys have seen it, and we can talk about it together. Comparing this to obviously the original version that came out in the theater, there is no comparison. This film is so much better. It makes sense. A lot of things that were confusing before now make sense. But will it overall change people's view of the film if they didn't like it originally? Probably not. But if your main issues were with the plot and people's motives and that sort of thing, then the Ultimate Edition may rank a little higher for you. But in all cases, it doesn't completely fix the film, but it does make it a hell of a lot better. If you are more of a Batman fan, you will like Batman v Superman better than if you are a Superman fan. That is just my personal opinion, and coming from a Ultimate Superman fan, that is my reasoning for not liking the film as much as I wanted to. I have said why I had my issues with it, which I'll put a link here to go to my Batman v Superman cinematic review, which you can click. But let's talk about the Ultimate Edition. So the Ultimate Edition is 30 minutes longer. That is 3 freaking hours, Lord of the Ring length film. And I did not pee once, so congratulate me for that, thank you. Now originally, I can't really remember what I rated Batman v Superman. I feel like I gave it like a 7 or a 7.5. That's what I'm feeling right now, and I think with this 30 minutes of extra footage, it definitely bumps it up to an 8, 8.5. If I liked Batman more than Superman, I probably would have rated this a lot higher. So before we get into the meaty stuff, obviously let's do a spoiler alert. It's got this review is going to have spoilers. If you have not yet seen the actual Batman v Superman yet, I don't even know why you're watching this video. It makes no sense to me why you'd be watching it. But if you have not seen Batman v Superman, just the normal version, the cinematic version, then you probably don't want to be watching this video. I don't know if I'm going to spoil things. It's just a pre-warning. Though if you haven't seen the 30-minute footage, I'm not really overly going to spoil this, but there will be probably one mention of a character that you may not want to be spoiled for. So what I'm going to do is actually just tell you within this video when I'm going to talk about it and when I stop. So it's going to be very clear for you so you can continue watching, so do not worry, I will not spoil that for you. In this Ultimate Edition, it's hard because we haven't seen Batman v Superman for a little while. So I mean, if you're like me and you've seen it like 3-4 times at the cinema, you will remember most of it, but there will be some moments in this film that you were like, was that already in there? I can't quite remember. And it may be just like an extra shot or just something extra that wasn't in there before that you might not even realize that has been put into this Ultimate Edition. So if you're watching it and you feel like there isn't a huge amount different in certain parts, don't freak out, it probably isn't. You will pretty much know when the extra scenes are in there. It's very damn obvious. So plot-wise, obviously, this 30 minutes makes the plot so much more clearer. You can completely understand Lex Luthor's plan and all the little, like, scheming paths that he had to get to the end. And I think the 30 minutes actually develops Lex into a much more, you know, masterful villain. He is an extreme criminal mastermind. With all this extra footage, you can see the lengths that he has gone to get to where he is. It doesn't by any means sort of fix his character. I know I did say in my review that I accepted him as Lex Luthor, and he was very different, and I was open to that. And it kind of reminded me of like the Superman Birthright, like visually, but I have to say he really gets on my nerves now. I was just rewatching it and thinking, why did I like this? Why did I like him as Lex? I now can't really see it, and it kind of bugs me a little bit, but whatever, that's not what we're talking about. So if you did not like Lex Luthor's personality, it does not change in this 30 minutes, unfortunately, but it does add his story into the plot a lot better. Another thing that we get to see is Clark is actually a reporter. He's actually reporting, he's going out, and he is going after stories. So there's a lot more like Clark Kent footage, which is kind of cool. We got to see more of him in the tub. He takes off his shirt. Excuse me, there were women watching this film. We would have liked to see that. And obviously we saw Bat Butt as well. Let's not forget that. So we finally got to see Clark Kent actually reporting, which was great. He went out and he did his thing, and then this all like weaved together into showing he had a problem with the bats. The people were afraid of him, and that was not okay. Like, even people that were criminals were afraid. And that is not okay. From his point of view, it's not okay. So we could see both parties having misconceptions about each other. Whereas in the cinematic version, it was like Clark suddenly like, oh, the bat, he's bad. Like, why? We had no build up to say why. He was just suddenly like, well, I don't like him, so, you know, I'm gonna go stop him. What? Though with Batman, it was justified. We had all that plot work. We had the Man of Steel wrath in Metropolis. We saw all that with Batman. We saw all that side. All of that was already in the cinematic version, but we did not see Clark Kent's side because they thought, well, it's Batman. We want to see more Batman. We know this Superman now, so we need to see more of Batman. No, this extended cut shows more of Superman, which is great. So the first extra scenes that I realized was, which was actually one of my favorite scenes. There's so many different scenes in this film that I absolutely love, but one that I really, really love is when we saw Bruce Wayne's view of the attack on Metropolis. So we went back in time and we watched Bruce Wayne driving the car. You know, he's maniacally trying to get to his building, but it all crashes and falls down. So we did actually see a little bit more footage there. It was sort of, to me, it was actually very emotional in the cinematic version, because like it already had that impact on me. So I don't know if it was like the music in that scene, and it's probably just the Man of Steel music, is my favorite soundtrack in the film. It just has so much pump to it and so much drive, and I'm just like, every time I hear it, I'm just like, ugh. Dun 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 dun. That's like my legit music I put on when I'm late for work and I have to like hightail it down like the Devonshire Tunnel. But obviously it made the scene emotional as well. So there was a few extra scenes in that, more scenes in terms of like an emotional impact, which, you know, it could have been left out, which they did in the cinematic version. There wasn't any like here or there with those scenes. It was nice to see them in there, but it didn't make any difference really to that scene at all. Second, I want to talk about the desert scene. So the desert scene in Africa, there will be a spoiler in this, but I will say when the spoiler is, so you can continue watching at this stage. So, the desert scene. The desert scene is much longer, and in fact, I think this is actually the longest extended scene in this film that I can remember. So, I reckon there's a good like 10 minutes just in that scene. I feel like it went on for a while. But in that scene, we see Lex Luthor's, you know, private contractors, which we already knew were there, completely going through his plan. We could see the whole thing happening. And what we didn't see was there was another team of CIA agents that were actually there for, you know, the photographer that was there with Lois. We saw that whole scene unravel, and there were so many different things going on there. But it does make a lot more sense having all of this together, because when you watched it the first time, you were like, there were bits that are weird, you know, that it's just cutting. I don't understand what is happening where. And the emotional impact of seeing the African woman talk to the senator in the court makes a lot more difference, because we've seen all these people getting hurt, and, you know, it just follows through. Because in the cinematic version, Superman came in and that was it. And then suddenly this woman's like, my family was dying. It's just like, well, what do you mean? Everyone was like, these villains. What? It doesn't make sense at all. But this extended version made it sense. I don't make sense. What I did not like is we're gonna have a spoiler here. So I'm gonna put a little spoiler thingamajig up here that you can see now. So this is going to continue until I've stopped talking about the spoiler. So you can fast forward now until you see this spoiler thing disappear, okay? Here we go. So we're going to be talking about the photographer in this scene, which if you've been looking online or you've read like, you know, spoilers online, Zack Snyder said he was going to be Jimmy Olsen. That he was Jimmy Olsen and he wanted to have a big impact with a, you know, a loved Superman character dying. just to have that impact in there. But obviously it didn't really work, so he didn't keep it in the film that he was Jimmy Olsen. He was just this random CIA photographer guy. But in this extended cut, he said his name was Jimmy Olsen! Oh my god! I kind of knew that it was gonna happen because I already knew this spoiler from reading it online somewhere, but like actually seeing it confirmed in there, I was just like, oh my god. I was so glad that they cut this from the cinematic version. Like, I'm glad that they cut him saying, I'm Jimmy Olsen. Like, I didn't mind the rest of it, but like, I'm so glad they cut that because you can't have that. Like, seriously, this film is full of depressing shit and you want to kill Jimmy Olsen. You haven't even introduced Jimmy Olsen, except for this one scene and he dies 10 seconds later. No, that's not what's gonna happen here. You can't just create a character that we all know and then just delete him. That's not, stop deleting people. You can't do that. I'm having a rage now, I'm sorry. But I did not like the fact that they wanted this to be Jimmy Olsen. So I was very happy that this wasn't in the cinematic version, and I stand by whatever decision whoever made wherever in DC that should not be revealed. Good one, whoever you are. So that's it for the character spoiler. So don't worry, I'm not talking about it again. Two more things I wanted to talk about before getting to the finale is we had the introduction of Gina Malone. So Gina Malone was going to be in this film, but obviously she got cut. She was this character or scientist in Star Labs in this film. I know a lot of people were saying that she was going to be Batgirl, and I didn't understand that. I didn't want that at all. So she was playing a minor character in this film. So you will see her. She is the one that actually put Lois on the track with the bullets. So, and in this film, Lois played a huge point in this. She was basically the main factor in finding out that Lex was the main villain in this, that he was behind everything. So Lois was actually quite powerful in this film. And the second thing I want to talk about is, this is going to be another spoiler. I realized that it's going to be a spoiler. So I'm going to put spoiler up here and you can just fast forward to when it doesn't say spoiler. So we have to talk about the fact that Steppenwolf was in this film with the mother boxes inside the Kryptonian ship, and Lex was talking to him. So they didn't want to, obviously we can see they didn't want to confirm this because Justice League is going to be about Darkseid stuff and Steppenwolf and all that kind of stuff. So this we know that now. We know that. So releasing this Ultimate Edition, obviously they can have this scene in there. So it is very understandable why they wouldn't have this scene there. But it was kind of exciting. It was exciting. At first I didn't recognize him because he looks very different to what he does in the comics, but it's obvious now. So that's kind of exciting that he's going to look very like alien looking. So I do have a lot of problems with villains in comics looking very lame. I have problems with that. So I think I'm very excited to see what he's going to look like in full form, because obviously that was just a short play on what he's going to look like. So that is very, very exciting. One thing I want to say was my favorite addition to this Ultimate cut was the scene after the bombing inside Parliament House, or whatever that section was. When Superman went in there and the bomb went off, that scene afterwards, because what we got was Superman just leaving. Like, we didn't even see that. Just the people died and that was it. Superman disappeared. In this after scene, Superman stayed. He was helping people. We saw all this emotion go through him, and that is what I needed to see for Superman's character. We needed to see him reacting to all this carnage that is happening because of him, but not really because of him, because of Lex. So this was a very, very powerful scene that I absolutely loved, and I think this was my favorite addition to this, which is very exciting because, as I said, Superman in this universe isn't a character I'm really getting behind. But that one scene probably made the film for me. I thought that was a fantastic scene. I'm so gutted that that wasn't in the cinematic version, because that really would have solidified that character in that way. We're seeing his human side. We needed that. And finally, the ending was a lot longer. So you have one of those Lord of the Rings endings that keeps going on and does not want to end, though it's not necessarily a bad thing. But in terms of this, we had a lot more Batman stuff happening. So that ending scene of Batman and Lex in the prison was so much better in the Ultimate Edition, because they talked about Arkham. They talked about putting Lex in Arkham, and Batman has some friends that want to meet him. That was pretty exciting. So I really enjoyed that implement putting inside there. I can understand them not wanting to put that in the cinematic one because they don't know what's happened. They didn't know what was happening with the Batman solo film or anything like that, so they just didn't want to touch it at all, and then it would shine too much on Batman. But I really enjoyed this in the Ultimate Cut, obviously, as I started playing all the Arkham games. That was very exciting to hear. So overall, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about in the Ultimate Edition. I could go on for 10 years, but we're not going to. I think that's enough. Have you guys seen the Ultimate Edition so far? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought obviously it was so much better than the cinematic version. I think everyone's agreeing with me here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you very, very soon. Goodbye.